So, what we saw yesterday in the morning class is, see, meditation, according to Vedanta, is not just keeping quiet or watching your thoughts or just kind of seeing some energies moving. Meditation is the whole, is defined as Saguna Brahma Vishaya Manasa Vyapara. So that means it is Manasa, it's a mental activity. And what is the purpose of this mental activity? It is to connect with Ishvara. That is the definition. So that means the presence of Ishvara is all pervading and it includes you. So you can't say, I don't want to recognize Ishvara, because in effect you will negate yourself. Why? Because you are not the creator of the body. You are not the creator of the mind. It came to you. You are just the trustee. So therefore, this I sense with the ownership from anything in this world has to go. In fact, when you bring Ishvara in life, a wave understands that what all that is here is Ishvara, is ocean. Really, and that's the truth. Because every ocean, every wave is not separate from the ocean. But you can't say the other way. You can't say the wave is ocean, therefore ocean is wave. Can you say that? If you say that, then you make a mistake. Because ocean is much more than a wave, but wave is nothing but ocean. This is a relationship. So therefore, while A is B, B is not A. This is the relationship. So Ishvara includes everything, including my form, but Ishvara is not just my form, it is this form, this form, everything. So therefore, this understanding we generally don't have when we transact with the world. We transact with the world as one individual who is separate from everything else. So that means when Vedanta shows the fact that everything is just one, every form is a manifestation of one intelligence, you need to make a deliberate attempt to bring the understanding of that intelligence in your life, because you have not been living life like that. Even if you are a believer, you have the understanding of Ishvara as some entity away from you, some bigger entity which is away from you. You still need to change that. And you need to re-understand what Ishvara is, and you need to bring it in your transaction. Only then the connection will come. Otherwise, your connection with the universe will be a very kind of very kind of a flimsy connection. You try to kind of, so many times nowadays in the Western world, they use affirmations. Affirmations is you tell yourself. You tell yourself, and then many of them use these ideas. You are connected to the universe. And it is almost like a wishful thinking that, oh, I'm connected. But in fact, there is no knowledge. It's just kind of a wishful, there is no basis. You just kind of tell yourself, it becomes a flimsy statement. But if you do see the fact that, hey, you and me are connected, because we are made up of the same atoms. That we are made up of the same material. You and me are made up of exactly the same material. And all of us draw on the universe for our survival. So that means you are not only connected to each other, but we are also connected to the forces of the universe. So that means you need to bring that in your psyche. Your psyche has to change, and that process is done in meditation. You see, you change your basis of interaction with the universe. Not me versus the world, but world as manifestation of Ishvara, in which you are one manifestation. That is the first step. And in that will also happen all your healing. Because as Lutz was saying, I liked what he was saying. Wonderful what he was saying. He was saying, the minute you discover the trust in the universe, you also discover trust in yourself. And you need to trust yourself. You can't look upon yourself as a person guilty of this. You can't look upon yourself as a person who's suffering from hurt because so many people did such bad things to you. If this is your vision, how will you understand limitlessness? It's not possible. So that means, in trusting Ishvara, you also begin to what? Trust yourself. Because whatever you did at that given point in time, Surya many times uses meditations to say it is in order. It is in order does not mean that it is a right thing. Please understand. Even if it was not the right thing, it is still in order. The apparent disorder is in order. What does it mean? Given the causes, given your situation, given your understanding at that given point in time, you couldn't have done anything better. You free yourself from guilt. This is a very, very important. People carry guilt for things which is such a deep guilt, and if you don't address it, you try to skew realities to make you feel better. So that means, now let's look at Indian context. Now imagine that you have not paid taxes and you gathered crores of rupees in your home. You feel guilty. This is how it is. Nobody can escape the feeling of guilt. If you are so damaged, then maybe, but otherwise everybody feels guilty. But you can't handle the guilt. Nobody can handle the guilt, so you further convince yourself, oh, everybody does it. You can't survive in this country without, hey, have you tried? So that means you justify to yourself that it is fine. So that means that by justifying, then what? Next time you also do it. So then how your guilt gets what? Compounded. And then you have to find more reasons. You say, yeah, not only it is in India, but show me one country where there is no corruption. So you further justify your thoughts. And this is how you go away and away and away from realities. So this is what we do because nobody can handle guilt. At one point in time, you have to have the courage and say, this is against dharma. You have to have the courage, not dodge. But it's okay, I did it at that given point in time because I didn't know any better. At the same time, you have to free yourself from what? The guilt. You have to accept that it was not an appropriate action, but at the same time free yourself from the guilt. That will only happen when you understand Ishvara, the trust. And then you can say, today, it's not that because I have done it 500 times, I have to continue to be doing that. Today, I can always do things differently. I have learnt my lessons through those experiences. Instead of feeling guilty about it, I understand that they were coming from some confusion, and that's fine. Nobody has what? Total clarity about anything anyway. So therefore, you have to recognize that you have to have courage to say it was an inappropriate action. You have to say that to yourself. You have to take responsibility. Not dodge, not find justification. The second thing you have to then say, at the same time you have to free yourself from the guilt. You also have to do that. Because you can't carry the burden of the guilt. And you have to say, at that given point in time, I couldn't do any better. With my understanding, limited understanding, I did it. But you also have to say, today I need not be victim of the habit. Because I have done it 500 times, I have a choice with me that I may not do it 501 times. You pull yourself out of habits. That is use of free will. That is, then you have learned the lessons. Life has taught you lessons, you have learned and you move on. You have to do same with reference to hurt. What people did to you, all of us carry some amount of hurt. Even simple thing like Rajan was saying, that between 4 and 11, if your parents are going to work and if you are at home, if you're alone, many kids have this sense of feeling of abandonment. They feel abandoned. So therefore, even that is something that you carry hurt for something that just the parents didn't do anything actively bad. They just went to work. And still you carry it. So you have to free yourself from the hurt too. See, as a child, I wanted somebody to be around, and nobody was around, so I felt like that. There is nothing wrong. Please don't carry some guilt over it. And then you say, that was a child's perception. The child did not know any better. You need not carry a burden for what you felt when you were a 5-year-old. But as an adult, you also have a choice not to feel abundant in your present relationships. Because if your present relationships are based on feeling of abandonment, then what will happen? There is always insecurity. There are so many people whose husbands are really nice, but they feel, oh my God, what if, simple little thing somebody says, and what if I had it's amazing how it happens. So one person in my class, she was asking me, so, I love to read, but my husband loves to socialize. So what should I do? I said, yeah, so I don't see any problem. Sometimes you go with him and sometimes you be at home and read and do things that you want. So what's the big deal? It's not like some huge problem or anything. So then she tells me, she says, oh, if I let my always, see how we speak, we convert everything into always. If I always sit at home and he always goes out on his own, he'll find somebody else. So that means you are creating scenarios which are completely, this is the abandonment syndrome. You carry situations to extreme and you kind of begin to think that this is what is going to happen. So because you think, so all your decision making is neither you sit at home and do what you want to do and you tag along with him and you're always complaining that I don't want to do it. Because you can't make any decisions for yourself. This is what we call, in simple things, it all comes out. You reveal yourself by what you say. You may not realize it. So therefore, these kind of, so this is what we call feeling abandoned, that he will leave me if I don't accompany him all the time. This is a self-message that you give to yourself. And your decisions are made based on that reality, which is not reality. So this is where you have to give up this feeling of abandonment, because otherwise every decision will be skewed. neither you will be happy nor you will make people around you happy. So that means even all the hurt and everything, we have to heal ourselves. If we don't heal ourselves, distortions will keep coming out. So you have to say, yes, I felt it like that at that given point in time. Don't try to deny it. If you deny it, there is no truth. At that time, I felt it. Truth. Any corrections you do, they have to be based on realities. You can't create another falsehood to give up one falsehood. When it is, this is how you felt, you have to have the courage and say, yes, this is how I felt. But you also have to tell, because you felt like that when you were 5-year-old, you need not feel like that today. Your today's interactions cannot be based on what? The feeling of abandonment which you felt when you were 5 years old. You also have to tell that.
But the awareness is not there.
Sorry?
You're not able to make that connection.
So this is why this is all growth, no? So this is why we are saying when you come to this knowledge, that if you really want to understand this knowledge, then you need to sit with yourself and undo years of programming. Because unless you undo these years of programming and behaviors, attitudes, actions which are based on the past story, which is a highly inadequate story, you will not move towards this real reality. See, sometimes what people do is they try to say everything here is mithya, so I don't need to worry about it. I'm only interested in Satyam, so I'm this. So that becomes a clutch. You use this sentence to actually bypass this reality. Whereas Upanishads are saying you can't bypass these realities. You have to what? Process these realities. And in processing these realities, understanding of Ishvara is a big thing. Because you see order. You see order behind your guilt, you see order behind your hurt, you understand the order and you make use of the same order to recover from it. Because that opportunity is also given to you. So that is the step. And that is what we are doing in meditation. Meditation is not just sitting quiet. That whole process of reorientation happens in meditation, according to Vedanta meditation. Because I can talk about the feeling of guilt and hurt and all, but each one of us are carrying guilt or hurt or resentment about something else. All of us have anger issues, all of us have sadness issues, all of us, there is no exception here. If you think without processing, if you think I'm free from it, it's not possible without processing it. So therefore, there is some amount of what we call, and this meditation gives us an opportunity to apply what is said in Vedanta with our specific issues. Because the teacher cannot say about, I can give X example and Y example, but only you know your story. And only you can correct your stories. I can't do it. I can just give some examples to give you an insight into how to go about it. But you have to do that job, because unless you do it, it will not get corrected. And if it is not corrected, knowledge will not take place. This is how it is. So therefore, this is what we said about meditation. Now, the second verse is also now here they are talking about different stages, certain types of meditation. And here he says, Nirunantam Sthapya. Yeah, chapter 2. Samam Shariram Hridi Indriyani Manasa Sanniveshya Brahma Rupena Prataret Vidvan Srotamsi Sarvani Bhayanakani. Okay, so let's see how here it says. Nirunantam Sthapya. Chapter 2. Samam Shariram Hridi Indriyani Manasa Sanniveshya Brahma Rupena Prataret Vidvan Srotamsi Sarvani Bhayanakani. So let's see how here it says. Okay. So now the meditation, you can't just sit and already start talking about, oh Ishvara and oh my guilt and my hurt and all that, right? So you first need to do what? Quieten yourself. So this is what Surya does. The first step of meditation is what? Sthapya samam sharira. So that means you may have to relax your body. So that means, what is the technique that we use to relax the body? Surya does what? The scanning of the body. So that means from top to bottom, you scan the body, and actually, it may seem like a simple thing that what am I doing? I'm just internally looking at my body. But Surya has some medical benefits which are all done in the US empirical research. Just scanning the body itself has so many benefits. But I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the thing that, our mental life, so that imagine that I see something as a trauma, not only it's in my mind, it also physically gets stored. So like this. So over a period of time, what happens? You have shoulder aches, neck ache, back ache, knee pain. So these are all, they are not totally unconnected to what your so that means the traumas do not only get stored in the mind, they also get stored at a physical level. So this is why what you do is, you actually, generally we are not even aware of our body until the time that there is a lot of pain, then only you are aware. So here what we are doing is, we are at a very subtle level becoming aware of our body. And wherever there is tension that we are holding, any stress that we are holding, we just, just by breathing, we release it. This is like almost every day you do that job of de-stressing your body. This is something which is very, very helpful. Your body, the body language will change over a period of time. And your awareness of the body will also increase over a period of time. Because we only have habit of looking at our body when it pains. Otherwise, we don't have that awareness. So that means you have to every day just actively release stresses from your body. Now, so that means these are all what we call preparatory steps of meditation. You can't just sit and say, now I have to start relating to Ishvara. It will not happen like that. So that means you first have to quieten yourself. So you have to get into the mood of meditation. Okay? Then, Hridi Indriyani Manasa Sanniveshya. Okay? The waking hour, we are so used to engaging with the world with what? Our senses. The minute, from the time that you wake up, you only find yourself among people, among situations, among things to be done. So that means there is always, the minute you wake up, there is all these different inputs, right? And your mind says, oh no, today I have to do this. This is how we start the day. And by thinking about what all I have to do, I already get tired. So that means you have to, the waking hour we use, all our waking hour is just what in interacting with the world. So the only respite we have is when we go to sleep. So now we have to use waking hour to say, yes, I am going to use most of my waking hour in interacting with the world. I'm not interested in withdrawing from the world, but at least half an hour or at least 45 minutes, I have waking hour, I have to what? Spend with myself. Spend with yourself. There are so many people who are afraid of being with themselves. it's very common now. I don't know because I left the country many years ago and I've done everything alone in my life. So I don't have any problem. But people say this, so I asked somebody, so she said, I love to go for a walk. So I said, yeah, so why don't you go? Oh, I don't have a company. So that means for everything you need somebody else.
Where do you think that comes from? Like if you were to like relate it back to your childhood, this fear of being by yourself, because the natural state is to be by yourself.
Yeah.
So then where does that kind
I
of...
think that, I think there are two, one thing is a little bit cultural. You know, sometimes, at least in a culture like India, they said, you know, sometimes it's also a wise thing. A child wants to go alone and things are so chaotic outside, then you say, no, you go with somebody. So at least it's kind of some sense of security. But what then happens is, when you're an adult, you have to, for a child it is good. But then when you are adult, it then becomes a habit. So see, for example, Surya always tells me that, and this is a fact, this is a truth. So Surya always tells me that my reactions of the things are much more than anybody else. So for example, if I'm crossing the road or like if I'm in the water, so I'll start screaming like when it is cold. I'll like, ah, you know, this is like whereas most of the people, even if they feel really cold, like even if Surya feels very cold, he'll probably say, But or if I'm crossing a road and if I see a car coming, I'll, so these are reactions.
Yeah, I saw that. Yesterday when 4-5 dogs came,
I was like, oh my god, yeah, exactly. So these are my reactions and I'm very much aware of that. So, and where does it come from? So I was like thinking, where does it all come from? So my grandmom, see how it is. My grandmom, she lost her son when he was 20 years old. And actually what had happened is that when Gandhiji passed away, he was studying at Banaras Hindu University, he was studying for engineering. And he went to Allahabad because they were doing immersion of his Asti at Allahabad. He went to pay homage to Mahatma Gandhi and he got typhoid. And at that time, there was no typhoid medicine. Within matter of 15 days, he passed away. And after he passed away, his result came and he stood first in engineering. From then on, she was like with reference to us, she was like extra careful. Any little thing, she'll say, oh no, you'll fall. So you always, as a kid, one input you receive, then kids, you know how they are. They'll say, no, you see. So that means it's such a deep conditioning, I still carry it. You can laugh about it, but you carry it.
That's true.
So that means, sometimes it is our parents and their impressions and, this is a very dramatic situation. But, simple fears and simple anxieties, in fact, we receive from our parents and we also pass on. We create a legacy, unknowingly.
Family constellations, you can see this over the generations.
No? They carry us forward for generations.
Also the guilt scene, no?
Yeah.
And you don't know in your life why you feel guilty, and then if you look there and you see there was somebody, your grandfather was in jail or what.
Yeah.
I'll give an example in the night about how this occurred to a girl and what was the reason how she felt. A very similar situation.
Yeah, it's amazing. See, once you become aware of it, even if you don't totally, you can't totally get over it, but you have to be aware that, if you try to deny, oh, I'm Brahman, it doesn't work. So you have to see it because these are all facts. You can't deny facts to reach Brahman. That will never happen. You have to learn to deal with what understand your inadequacies and laugh about it. Don't take it too seriously. I liked Namu, she was saying, she said she just did a Times Literature Festival, and she works with one Parsi lady. And the Parsi lady, she said she made a statement. She says, I take my work seriously, but I don't take myself seriously. This is a nice attitude to have. Laugh about things. But denying, it will create monster. So that means this is how it is. You can be free from the hold of it, and that can only come when you accept it and somehow resolve it in the greater order of Ishvara. The hold you can free yourself, otherwise it will continue to hold you. So therefore, this is what, in meditation one has to do all of that. Otherwise it will continue, it will not go. Now, this verse is, so that means, now what happens is our whole waking life is all about interactions. And you have to spend some time with yourself to see what are those things that that you are, certain things, certain orientations that you have, and you have to do corrections. In order for you to spend time with yourself, your indriyas have to what? Shut off to outside world for that point of time. Because unless you shut off your indriyas to the outside world, when will you have time to process all this? You will not have time to process. You will constantly be going from one situation to the other, one interaction to the other. You will not spend. All your profound moments are when you spend time with yourself. All the people who are great achievers, they have spent hours with themselves, thinking about a given subject matter, or painting, or writing, and all, hours. So that means that it also, being with yourself has to be a source of what? Regeneration, rejuvenation, not a source of what? Loneliness, sadness. That you have to learn. That is something that you do. You withdraw the indriyas, and you then only, there is a time for you to contemplate. Okay?
So here the organs means the sense organs.
Sense organs. Okay, now here what is interesting is, so now what, all the things which are bhayanakani. Bhayanakani means all things which are scary. This is why we always, Surya used to say, we always seek the pleasant and we try to push aside the unpleasant. But the real growth comes in what? Confronting the unpleasant. In order to confront the unpleasant, you have to stay with the unpleasant. How will you confront with the unpleasant if you are not even willing to stay with it? So that means you don't know that. Our teacher used to say the only way to deal with fear is to welcome fear. The more you are fearful of your fears, more they will rule you. The minute the fear comes, you will say, oh no, I should not be thinking like that. That means fear will be there and rule your behavior. But if you say, hey, I welcome fear, I am feeling fear, I welcome it, let me stay with it and see where it is coming from. You welcome it and you stay with it and you begin to what? Look at it and then you correct. Whatever are the corrections which are required, you correct. So that means welcoming the unpleasant. Instead of avoiding the unpleasant, we have to welcome the unpleasant. In fact, you ask any person who's successful, the biggest learning happened when there were failures. The biggest learning they had was at the times of the failure. That time there was a quantum shift. So that means don't be afraid of failures. Don't be afraid of unpleasant things. It's okay. Nobody can avoid actually. Nobody. Human being is mixture of punya and papa. There is no human being who has not had pleasant and unpleasant experiences. And unpleasant, if you're scared of the unpleasant, it will continue to rule you. If you welcome the unpleasant and say, what are my lessons from it? You're not afraid. Whole life becomes a wonderful journey. Because pleasant you have no problem with, unpleasant also you welcome and you take your lessons. Wonderful. Nothing will shake you in life. What can shake you? Tell me. If you are not afraid of the unpleasant, what will shake you? But you are afraid of the unpleasant because you don't see what are your lessons. If you have taken your lessons, you are not afraid.
There is a good example of failure versus success. There's a basketballer called Michael Jordan. I don't know how many of you have heard of him. When he retired, they asked him, you have scored some 13,500 baskets in your career. It's been a wonderful experience. So, what do you think about it? What's your comment? He said, have you noticed that I have missed 75,000 baskets in my career? And I have only been observing my 75,000 baskets and learning from every one of my failures. And that has been the reason why I am here where I am today. That was his comment.
That's lovely. This is how it is. So therefore, instead of being afraid of this thing, observe. Stay with it, observe and learn from it. So then, this is, and for doing all of this, you implicitly have to have trust. If you don't have trust, none of this will happen. And the only source of trust is Ishvara. That's why you need Ishvara in your life to get well. So therefore, this is what it says. Now, here it's interesting, these bhayanakadi also have to be dealt with. But then, here he says even vidwan. Okay? So that means, here we make a kind of distinction. The tradition makes some kind of a distinction between Brahmavid and Brahmanishta. Here it says vidwan. So that means there is a person who we call the knower of Brahman. But this person is not this flippy-floppy knower of Brahman, I am not the body, I am not the mind type. The person really has understood. That means the knowledge has taken place. But at the level of mind, you never know. There are so many things which come up in life. So that means, this is why the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata are wonderful. Because in Ramayana, Rama is not only a wise person, he is depicted as avatar. Avatar means Ishvara in form of a given individual who doesn't have ignorance. That is called avatar. All of us are born of ignorance, and we have been given the potential of what being freeing ourselves from ignorance. Avatar is the one who has come without ignorance, just taken a form to perform a given function without ignorance. That's why the name is Avatar. Now, Rama goes through very difficult situations in life. And in those difficult situations, he has to make decisions. And one has to see how he uses those situations which seem to be overwhelming. And at times, makes decisions which are going against his own personal interests several times. And at the same time and going through a lot of difficulties, he's not afraid. Because he's come for a mission, he's come for a purpose, and his whole thing is to accomplish the mission. Which is to, in this case, it is to establish dharma, give people, in fact, the opportunity to see how in a different situation, difficult situations, one has to interpret dharma. And ultimately, Ravana is depicted as an evil person, who doesn't have values, but who's still very arrogant and to, kind of fighting. Because he was invincible otherwise. So that means he's come for a mission, but in the process, he makes decisions. So there are two things where you see that, in India, it's very, very common. The people, everybody, as she says, this feminist, when they listen to Ramayana, they always, the first thing they do is, criticize Rama's decision to send her out of the palace because, some, I don't know, all of you know the story, but some dhobi, who was like a washerman's woman, man said to a woman that Rama can accept a wife who has lived with some other man, but I can't accept it. So that is a point of a huge debate. So this is where actually, the way the tradition looks at it is, now when you play multiple roles, Rama was not just a private person, he was a statesman. He had another role. As a leader, he had to play another role, which is taking care of his subjects, instilling right values in the people, right attitudes, right vision. So that means sometimes if your personal dharma is in conflict with your dharma as a leader, then which takes a precedence? Public life. This is a rule. Larger good is the rule. So this is where I also give, this is a common dilemma for so many leaders. If you look at like Nelson Mandela, their personal lives are all difficult because all of their time is gone in what? A bigger cause. Same thing with Gandhiji. His son wanted to go abroad to study and he started Satyagraha movement. Satyagraha movement means that what Swadeshi, Swadeshi movement. Swadeshi means you have to, because the British Empire was accumulating a lot of wealth by taking raw material from India, manufacturing it in England and selling it back to us at a very high price. So it was just extracting resources from India and also selling it back to us at a very high price, totally draining the country. So he wanted a non-violent movement. So how do you break the whole strong infrastructure of a British economy? How are you going to do it? So he found a very clever method. He says all these things, they can do because we are consuming the English products. Abundant. Use your own charkha and make your own products and eat everything which is here. That was a very strong, a very strategic movement. He was not passive, very, very active, very strategic in his intervention. Now, he's telling the whole country to abandon everything foreign and his own son wants to go abroad and study. Conflict of interest. One role as a national leader and the other role as a father. If he tells his son that no, you go and do what you want because you are a free person, then what will happen? How seriously will people take his appeal? He said, you're sending nicely your son abroad and you're telling us to give up everything for him. So therefore, he had to make that decision, which is what? He told his son not to go abroad, which then, actually there was a cost to that. The cost was the son had a lot of resentment. I mean, one could always see also what one has to learn is that one can handle that situation a little bit, probably, I don't know. I'm not anybody to comment on Gandhiji, but in our lives, when there are conflicts,